Hey everyone, it's Panda here, and I wasn't actually originally planning on making an Adela video, mostly because not a lot of people have actually asked me for it or asked me for my thoughts on her. However, what actually prompted me to make this video was that there seems to be a common consensus within the community that you should pull Adela if you do not have Deren, or that she is a great pull for newbies to pull for. So I kind of wanted to explore that a little bit, because to me, when I read Adela's kit, right, obviously I see, okay, well, she's very suited for like TOA stuff, right, long-term combat. And she is highly reliant on her Shackle 1 to just function as a kit. Like, at that point, I feel like she becomes a complete sinner. So we're basically telling these newbies and people who don't have Deren that you should be rolling 2 copies of her at the very least. And I think with the sinners on the banners on the horizon, I don't think that's super advisable. Like, she needs to actually be comparable to Deren if that is the case. So when people say she's comparable to Deren, she is Deren's replacement, I would expect that at Shackle 1 or at Shackle 0, she would be in some way comparable to Deren's damage. Right? That would be what my expectation based on that advice. Now, my Adela is obviously really strong. Like, she's shackle free. She has exclusive crime brand Adela free as well. Really, really strong. But I did test a shackle 0 as well. That is a bit more representative for what we're going to be doing here. But obviously, we can also consider shackle free. But yeah, the way we tested this was that we went into the stage 612, and basically we just put Adela here, back here, and we did the same with Deren, right? Reason we do this is because I don't want to measure the upfront damage, because in something like high risk, Brand only spawns at the end and you want to instantly break him anyways. You're only really getting the core break damage there. Same thing happens on something like DC Serpent, right, where she spawns in wave 2. It's just really volatile and not consistent at all when you actually get to have some upfront damage and how much of it you get. So we're just completely eliminating that. We're only focusing on the burst damage. So as you can see, he reveals his core here. I just break with Labby. I make sure that my Adela is full energy. Ulti, exclusive crime brand, start ACing her. Just basically play her as you would in BFL, like to maximize your damage output. So yeah, a bit of AC, yada yada yada. And then as soon as the break ends is basically when we quit the stage and we take note of what her damage output was. In this case, obviously, this is just a rough sketch of how I did things. So she only deals about 92k damage here. Alright, but yeah, that's basically what we did. That's the methodology. And yeah, let's take a look at some of the results now and some of the data. Now, I posted all this in my private server, just a server I have for myself, but all of the videos of these tests I have included in the description below. So if you want to review them, make sure that's nothing, no one doing something egregious to lower Sinner's damage output. You can make sure to check those videos. Now, first of all, let's start off with Shackle 0 Adela, right? This is what we're going to be expecting most people to have and most people to be running around with. And basically, she is dealing 100k damage here in a full break. Now, this is obviously run by level 1. So that's something to be said there. But yeah, that's the damage output there. Now, to give the comparison point of Deren, my Deren, Shackle 4, 0, right, it's not completely fair. But I did try to keep the experience stacks at a minimum. So basically, she never got her attack 12 times experience stack, and her exclusive crime brand only crit once. However, as you can see, even with that, she still hits 200k. And I mean, this is only scalable upwards given that she could crit with more exclusive crime brands. So yeah, I don't think it would be too wrong to basically assess that a Shackle 1 Deren will be dealing approximately this amount of damage as well. Like basically 200k. Even if you factor in the Shackle free, I think having the 2 crits are probably still going to be preferable. But yeah, basically Adela deals half of Deren's damage there. And that's kind of what we're expecting, right? That's kind of the same as something like Priscilla. Priscilla deals 20k upfront because she's range here. We just subtract that from the total so that she gets 105k damage output. I mean, this is also again a really, really stacked Priscilla, which I mean Adela is comparing to, so you can I guess favor that. But then we start looking at a bit more meta options, right? Such as Mass, and this is not my really, really strong mess, it's just a more regular invested mess, 9979. Deals approximately 150k, but then again, she needs to stack up, and that's approximately 8k. Subtract that, so we're probably looking at like 140k damage from mess. So yeah, again, Shackle 0 Adela, 100k. Just standard mess, 140k. Forget Deren. Adela Shackle 0 doesn't even compare to mess fully. Like, you can make the argument, right? Oh, there's the upfront damage. Oh, she brings core break. Oh, she has a second use of exclusive crown brand, right? But even with all of that, like, she essentially still needs to find another 50k. And that's just to be comparable or competitive to mess. That's not even Deren levels yet. I also checked some others, such as Soya, Shackle Free, of course, and she basically just deals 150k, no questions asked, and she will probably deal more upfront damage than Adela will. Also tested Flora, because Flora is kind of broken actually because of the way you can AC her. She dealt approximately 30k upfront, which you then can subtract from her total, which basically puts her in the Mess and Soya tier. Though she eats movements like a motherfucker, of course. So yeah. But we can still use this Shackle 0 Adela here to then also approximate her Shackle 1 damage. She does that, does that make any huge changes? And basically the way I did this was that I said, okay, well, we get 15 extra marks by getting Shackle 1. So let's see how much damage one mark procs for. And what I found here was that this is basically the 4k you see there. So 1 mark, or 3 marks, let's say, procs for 4k damage if they crit. Let's just assume they all crit. She then gets 15 marks, which is then 5 more procs. Each of those doing 4k. Let's assume she gets like 1 more attack back, maybe 2 attacks back. Another 8k, so like a 28k increase to her 100k, putting her at about 130k. Still below mess, but I think at this point you can now start making the argument, oh, if you get the exclusive crown brand level 3, or if you use the second exclusive crown brand, you're going to be getting more damage than mess there. And I think that's fair, but I think basically the only thing you have proven then is that Shackle 1 Adela is comparable to the meta options, disregarding Deren. We haven't reached Deren levels yet, right? So that's basically what you're proving at Shackle 1 Adela. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think she's good to roll for if you're new. I don't think she's good to roll for. Like, I don't think the Deren argument makes sense at all. Yeah, I don't know. I would just say save your cubes if you're free to play, if you're new. Obviously, I do also want to test her in TOA, but we don't have that available. I might do a follow-up video on her performance in chapter 11, because that's also a long-term combat thing. But yeah, if you're new, you shouldn't be building for TOA anyways. So there's not a ton of things to say about her here other than I don't get it, I guess.